concordant and discordant pair relative to the number of x minus y pairs. Relative to the number of x minus y pairs. It's often denoted by the Greek letter tau. So this concept is used in the Candel's coefficient, and based on that, the relative correlation is identified. Tau is identified by that. So again, value of tau is like this. It will have the value from -1 to +1. 1 is equal to perfect collinear, perfect positive collinear is there, where all the pairs are concordant. All pairs are concordant. That time we have this kind of value of tau. When it is negative, then all the pairs are discordant. All the pairs are discordant. They are inverse. All pairs. That's called a discordant. When value exactly negative. And if it is exactly zero, again x and y are independent of each other. That will be identified by Kendall's correlations coefficient. And let's see. And then how the concept of correlation coefficients. We have seen yesterday Pearson and Spearman correlation. Now let's talk about the Kendall's correlation, and then we'll continue further with other topics presented here in it. Okay, let's see. Yeah. So we have a data set with us. That's what we have seen. Oh, NP is not defined. Fine. Okay, so we are having a pair of x and sorry, we'll create it. Let's say, for example, x is equal to 7 elements are there. Y is having another 7 elements. Now we have in the let's say x and y. I'm manually creating it. Yeah. So something like this, we have a data frame x and y. We are going to check the relationship between these two, x and y. X is the first set of data, y is another set of data. Okay, and to check that correlation with Pearson correlation, okay, it is 80 by using Pearson method, and another method that we have seen, it was Spearman method. So just have to mention the method name here. 100% are perfectly linear. That also we have seen. Only rank that we have seen, rank is working accordingly. Okay, so Spearman correlation is working in this way. If you change this a bit, for example, they're perfectly in sequence, they are also perfectly in sequence. Now let's talk about this. After here 89, I got 90 is in sequence, but after 89, if I write it 84. Okay. Now see, your Spearman correlation will change again. Now it is 96 because the rank of first and second are not exactly matching. Rank, the sequence, ordering is not exactly matching. That's why it is 96%. And if you want to check the candles correlation, so let's have df dot corr and use the method is equal to candle. See, it is 90%. 90%. So the number of discordant pairs and number of concordant pairs which are considered accordingly, we got the Kendall's correlation. Concordant pairs means they are incremental. First increment is second increment is first increment, second increment. But discordant means first increment, second decrement hai. Okay, that's they are not matching to each other. That's what we call as the discordant. So concordant, discordant pairs are checked, and based on that, Kendall's correlation that we got 90% connectivity to them. So check it. So Spearman, first of all, we have Pearson correlation, Spearman, and then the Kendall's correlation will be checked by this particular method here. Okay, so this is how the even if you're still having a confusion, so I can make use of a function called as rank data. So this is used to check the rank of this respective data. For example, I want to check the rank. Rank means the order. So let's see, SciPy contains it. SciPy is a package. Inside the SciPy, we have the stats package, and inside that we have a rank data. Here you have to pass the parameter. For example, I am passing the x parameter. Check the x parameter ranks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exact sequence, correct? And for the y, what's the rank? You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and then 6. Because here we have number 89 and here we are 85, 82 something. The rank is different. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 6 and this is 7th. So last two correlation techniques used for the rank only. They are check only linearity, but Pearson checks linearity and proportionality both, and based on that we identify the result. So this is when you are building the linear model, as I explained yesterday: linear regression, multiple regression, polynomial regression, ridge regression, lasso regression, least square regression, SVM, logistic regression. They basically focus on the linear modeling. So they focus on linear. So in that case, we have to make use of this correlation technique with the help of the linearity between the data set. Among the data set can also be found. So this method we can follow to perform the linear method. So many things are there. I just can work on different kind of things. This is what we are going to see, the regression line. If you want to plot this, see, I'm having PLT dot scatter. Okay, so df, from df I'm having x on x-axis, df I'm having y on y-axis. See, you can observe it now. This is how the data is present. It's actually, this is special case of polynomial regression. It's not having a line. We can check. They are connected, but not exact linearity is there. Okay, here it is incrementing, and somewhat decrementing again. The last position presented. That's why the collinearity that is present by Pearson is 85% only. Only 85% is there. So curve kind of thing is there, but they are connected. 80% is okay. Collinearity is there. So it means that we can apply the algorithm, data model algorithm, which works on the linear modeling. Okay? So that's what you remember there. Yeah. So this concept what we call as the correlations. So correlations are focused on data modeling. Basically, to model a data, we will be using the concept of collinearity. Let's go for another important topic under the statistics called as Simpson's paradox. Generally, it's not that much required. It's an advanced data analytics part, but let's talk. Simpson's paradox. What do you mean by it? Simpson's paradox refers to a situation where you believe you understand the direction of relationship between two variables, but when you consider an additional variable, that direction appears to reverse. Is it there? How it's possible? Direction is 1 and second, both are in one direction. One is incrementing, second is also incrementing. But if one additional variable is considered, third variable is considered, the direction will appear inversely. It will got inversely proportional after that. This concept or this situation we called as the Simpson's paradox. Simpson has identified this paradox. That's why the name of Simpson is given over here. Let's check about some situations here. Why exactly Simpson paradox happens. Simpson's paradox happen because of disaggregation of the data. Disaggregation, like aggregation combining, disaggregation splitting. Splitting it into the subgroups can cause certain subgroup to have an imbalanced representation compared to other subgroups. Imbalanced representation will be there. Okay, just a minute. Just a minute. I just want to change the network. Wait. So why the Simpsons paradox happens? Because of disaggregation of data. We split your data into the groups. Okay, it can cause certain subgroup to have imbalance representation compared to other subgroup. Imbalance means, for example, I want to build a model to check that whether the input is of what category. Input is of what category. So we require previous data of both categories equally. Both categories equally. Correct. Means 50 entry of first category and 50 entry of second categories. Okay. And then we can check what's the similarity that it has. We can find that. Similarity that it has, we can find. But if you mix and then we create a subgroup of that data. So it may possible, it was 50-50 first. Now it may become 75 and 25 after mixing. When you split that, so 75 and 25 will be there. And because of that, relationship will vary completely. This might due to relationship between the variables or simply due to the way the data has been partitioned into subgroup. What way that we have followed, whether you have partitioned sequentially, whether you have partitioned randomly or any other method is there. Because of that, subgroups are unequally created, which may not have the balanced representation of the data. Balancing is not done correctly. Imbalanced data sets are created. And because of that, Simpsons, let's take an example. Example number one. A famous example of Simpson's paradox appears in the admission data for graduate at UC Berkeley University in 1973. In this example, when you look at the graduate admissions data overall, okay, graduate admission data overall, it appears that men were most likely to admitted than women. This is a gender discrimination is there. But when looking at the data for each department individually, men were likely to be admitted than women in most of the departments. Yeah. See, the thing is separated, subgrouping is done. After that, different kind of data for each department individually, men were less likely to be admitted than women. So inverse thing is present when you create the data in the form of the groups. See this. Here we have this data presented. Okay. And now you can just compare that data with the original data. These are the whole overall admissions in University of Berkeley. Okay. Fine. Admission by gender. You can check where almost 0.4 rate is there, and for female again 30.45 there for female, sorry, male, and 0.3 is there for female. So comparison is, you can check, the more males are getting admitted. But the department wise data, check it out, department wise. If you change that data and we create the groups of the data, so department A, department B, department C, department D, E and F, only 3 departments are there, okay, out of that 6, where the female means they are almost same. Okay, sorry, how many are there? 2 departments are there where male are having more admissions and female are having less admissions. Okay, see, in department A, inverse situation is there. This is what we are having, male dominated, but here we can see it is female dominated, department A. Department B, again male to female, here we have female dominated area. In the third case, in C department, it is okay that we are having similar kind of things. Again, in D department, we have inverse scenario here. Here, male are less, but female is more. And F also. So only C and E is having this scenario. But A, B, D, E, okay, A, B, D, F, sorry, they are having inverse scenario of it. If you separate them by the admission, this is what we call a Simpson's paradox. Splitting the data will change your convention. Your probabilities will change here. So you can identify that what is the more probability? Male. If you are getting admitted to the particular school, so probability is given to the male, highest probability of having male will get the admission. But if you go by department, now probability is inverse completely. Almost, not completely, almost 80% changes are there in the probabilities. Probability of getting admission to the male or to the female, they are changing continuously. Or why exactly this happens? We're having one more example, we'll talk about that. But why this happens? Different departments have had very different acceptance rates. Okay, some were much harder to get into others. Every group will have different kind of the scenarios, conditions, attributes which are focusing on. Overall is different and individual group is different. Maybe more females apply to the harder departments. That's also maybe possible. Okay, the department which are harder, there more females are applied. That's why the overall count is less, but department wise count is something different. Okay, therefore female had lower acceptance rate in the aggregate because they are applied for harder department. That's why lower acceptance rate is there, and for that individual department is different. Okay, remember. So this leads us to ask, which view is the correct view? Do men or women have higher acceptance rate? Is there any gender bias in admission in this university? In this case, it seems to most reasonable to conclude that looking at the admission rate by department makes more sense and disaggregated view is correct. Because of disaggregation, this has happened. By making the departments, we are having different results, and by aggregating all together, again different results are there. This may be the reason present behind it. Example number 2, baseball. Another example of Simpson paradox that can found in batting average of 2 famous baseball players, Derek Jeter and David Justice, from 1995-1996. David Justice has higher batting average in both 95 and 96 individually. Okay, higher batting average is there. But Derek Jeter had a higher batting average over 2 years combined. If you combine them, batting average is higher. See this. Now, if you compare, first the batting average of the David Justice, and second is Derek Jeter. 2 players are there. So for David Justice, it is 0.27 something, and for Derek Jeter, it is 0.32 something. Okay, and if you separate them by the year, okay, if you separate them by the year, now check out the scenario. Batting average of players. So for 1995, the David Justice is having 0.25, and Derek Jeter has 0.24 something like that. It's less. For 1996 again, the David Justice is having 0.32, and Jeter is having 0.31. See, separate. Splitting creating different appearance there. Preference, reverse kind of scenario that we appear. That is example of the scenario of Simpson's paradox. So why exactly this happens for this particular case? So both players had significantly higher batting averages 1996 than 1995. Derek Jeter has significantly more at bats in 1996 and Justice has significantly more in 1995. Therefore, Derek Jeter has higher batting average in aggregate. That's also the possibility there. So basically, when you visualize the data, it appears differently, but internal structure is different. In such cases, modeling of data is different and it will collapse. Your logic will collapse completely. Prediction modeling will also collapse if you are having such kind of thing. Impact of third variable present there. In first case, we have seen impact of third variable here is the department. Third variable is department, and here in this case, third variable is year. Because of that, the impact is changing. The model that is present in the data is completely changing. Okay, so it's called a Simpson's paradox. Now, in this case, what operation we have to do? What to do? Many questions are there. Why reason is correct? Then what to do? Without enough domain knowledge, it's hard to know which way of relationship between two variables makes more sense. The one with or without the third variable. Whether you have to consider the third variable in picture while designing a data model or whether you don't have to design that. It's a part of statistics again. That's why understanding the clear data, clear understanding of the data basically is very focused and very clearly required. So to do this one, we have to make use of many various methods that will focus on understanding of the data. So Simpson paradox is also one of the way that by which we understand data so much clearly. But before we think about how to deal with Simpson paradox, we need to find a way to efficiently detect that Simpson paradox into the data set. Okay. So as mentioned earlier, it's possible to find instance of Simpson's paradox or a Simpson's pair by simply disaggregating or a contingency table or a plot of 2 points and studying the results separately. So however, there are ways to that we can find Simpson's pair using the models also. That's also possible to devise it. By building a decision tree also we can do decision tree algorithm we are having in our syllabus, that also we can make use of. With the help of that, a perfect model for such kind of data is also possible. It checks key in decision tree. We have a decisions taken, first this, then this, then this, then this. Like if department is this, then this kind of scenario is there. If department is that, then this kind of scenario. Means different scenario decisions are there. Decision tree is created and based on that decision tree we are going to make use of the distribution of the data, and accordingly the perfect model of data is possible. We'll talk about that in upcoming session, what is decision tree and how it is built. Okay. By building a regression model and comparing the sign of coefficients, regression modeling, regressions algorithm can be chosen. Like I talked about many regressions. So this algorithm can be used to perform operation and compare the sign of coefficients. Sign of coefficient means they are positive or negative. Based on that, it's identified. So they are the benefits for both. However, this can be difficult very quickly, especially when working with the big data set. So we are having a very huge data set. This definitely creates a problem. Okay, because expected results are not achieved in that case. So third variable is very important in many cases. So it's hard to know which variables in data set may reverse relationship. Yes, that's also very important to know between two or other variables, and it can be hard to check all the possibilities of pair variables manually. All possibility of pairs. Okay, with the maybe 20-30 features are there. Out of that, which feature is actually having the impact? Something like Simpson's paradox there. That's what we have. So imagine data set we have 20 variables. 20 variables are there. How many pairs you have to check? 20 into 20. Okay. So we'd like to check almost 400 pairs to be sure to find all the cases of Simpson paradox. 400 pairs are required to check. So it will waste the time. And if your data set is very long, 20 features, columns, and data set can also be different. Like we are having 10,000 entries, 50,000 entries, 1 lakh, 12 lakh, number of entries are possible, then it will be very hard, it will be very time consuming to check such kind of things. But if the scenarios are there, then we just have to focus on identifying it by making such combination. There is no any direct formula present. With the help of that formula, you find the Simpson paradox is available, but it's time consuming. It's a problem of data science, data analytics. Most of the time, when you when you see the impact of third variable, it will create it. But proper algorithm, like mentioned decision tree, the most useful algorithm in almost all the cases, all different kind of situations in machine learning, it works very well. That algorithm can be chosen to work with. Some other correlation caveats. It's a supplementary topic actually. It's as mentioned in the syllabus. Many other correlation techniques are present, but still we'll check this one. So what's the meaning of it? A correlation of 0 indicate that there is no relationship present between two variables. That's what we have seen. However, there may be a sort of relationship present in that. What is? Non-zero completely. Take out the x and y presented here. -2, 2, -1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2. X and y are having zero correlation with each other. Okay. But they certainly have a relationship. Each element of y equal to absolute value of corresponding element of x. That's maybe possible. Let's try that. Absolute value, talking about that's absolute value means any kind of value which is positive only positive. So let's see, x is equal to, we have what's the values there, comma 2. Okay, this is what we have, x, and you write y is something like this. Okay, so we have created it, and p dot see this. So you can observe 0, 0 is there, completely non-connected here. X against y 0, y against x is 0. They are non-linearly connected. 0, that's what we are having. 0 means non-dependent. They are not dependent on each other. So 0 correlation. But they are certainly a relationship that y equal to absolute value of corresponding element of x. So what they don't have a relationship in which knowing how xi compare to mean of x gives us information about how yi compares to the mean of y. That is a sort of relationship that correlation looks for. That may also contains. In addition, the correlation tells you nothing about how large relationship is that. Now we can now check this out. Now the element which I am using over there, they are completely different. I am modifying. I am keeping 100 there, and 0 0.0, 0.0 some number I am deleting it. Now check it out. I will use y now for this case differently. So let's say y. Now see, are they correlated? The number which we are presented here, you can see. Wait a minute. Let's say z, and this will be correctly created. So what I have done, these numbers which I have chosen here, this number, they completely uncorrelated were present. Now what I have done, this number 0 0.02 I have subtracted from 100, 0 0.01 I have subtracted from 100.
You are not
Just a
presenting
minute.
the final screen.
Wait a minute, it's showing it. Wait, I'll share it again. Yeah, visible now?
Yes.
Now see, 0.02 is subtracted from 100. I got this number. 0.01 subtracted from 100 means impact of this number is presented here. Remember, so the new number is calculated by using original numbers. New number calculate original number. So 0 is subtracted from 100. So 0. Sorry, 100. Then 0.01 is added to 100 here. Then 0.02 is added to 100. This number I got. Okay, now according to this number, by adding some manipulation inside it, I got another set of array. And now if you see the relationship between x and z, sorry, not executed. See, 100% is there now. See how impact changes directly using the same number. I modified it. In the same number, I have created another number. My relationship has changed from 0% to 100% directly. They are correlated with using this particular number. Previously, the absolute value was used only. Now today, I am directly using it. And you just check the result. What we have achieved over here is completely different. 100% correlation we are having. So it's very important to know that what we are measuring, or that depending on what you are measuring, it's quite possible that this relationship isn't that all interesting. This is thing that we need to consider while using the correlation technique so perfectly. So direct inversion is possible. So this is an extra ability given to the correlation methods. We may create one other independent variable out of it. See, same number I'm using, I'm transforming that data into another pattern using the original data. And after transforming, I got a relationship. So if collinearity is not there, we can choose such method to make them collinear and predict another value. This is a transformation method that we apply. We apply the same formula, and by using that formula, we have transformed the data. So maybe if relationship is 0%, we can embed relationship to will move towards +1 or -1. That's possible. Okay, that we can make use of it. This is one of the example which is shown over here, by which we can identify the collinearity concept in more clear, and it's a part of statistics. Very interesting to see. By programming also we can try that, and very rare situation is that, but this is my experience, very rarely such situation occurs. Connected with the correlation, there is one more concept called as causation. Causation and correlation, they are connected things together. So causation means that one event causes another event to occur. Reason: one event causes another event to occur. That is called as the causation. So it can only be determined from an appropriately designed experiment. The reason that dependencies are there, dependency things, that's what is causation. In such experiments, similar groups receive different treatment and outcome of each group are studied. Similar group, different treatment and different result, and outcome of every will be different again. So we can only conclude that treatment causes and effect of the group have noticed different outcomes. See, there's a unsupervised learning. That unsupervised learning is a creating a groups, clustering kind of thing. What cluster we create? See, if patient information is there, and that patient information, like in corona treatment also, if similar kind of patients are there, we can create a cluster group of this, because same treatment can be given to all the patients which are there in that group. Correct, which are there in that group. But maybe again it's possible that after giving the same treatment, everyone's outcome is different. Everyone's outcome is different because the dependency factor we have not recognized. Okay, that is what we have to recognize by using the concept of causation. Okay, we can only conclude that treatment causes an effect if the groups have noticed different kind of outcomes. Why again this happens? Describing relationship between the variable is not known to us. This is advanced data analytics that we can say. When you're familiar with common data analysis, how it is done by statistics, then we have to think from that point of view. What relationship the variables are having? Remember, everything happens for a reason. You might be knowing that is a rule of universe actually. If everything is happening for the reason, there is a connectivity present in that, and that connectivity is maths, stats that contains. Dependency is there. We need to find it. So the way that we find is a method of causation. Why it has happened? So what is the dependent element present over there that we have to identify? If dependent element is identified, then data model can be perfectly created. Identifying statement consistent with the relationship between the variables, that's also one of the reason, or identifying valid conclusion about the correlation and causation for the data shown in the scatter plot, like the plot which I have shown, we can conclude from that how they are connected. Now, the example which I have shown is containing not linear, it was having a curve connectivity. If it's having a curve connectivity, so can I make use of another method to work with that? It's a curve connectivity, so polynomial regression is possible over there. Okay, like what? The causes, why it has happened, the reason, the factor which are directly having impact on the data, indirectly having impact on that is also possible. Indirect impact, maybe data is not having that, but we have to identify. See, these are the factors which are having indirect impact on the data. So what's the cause? What's the reason why it's happening? That's what will be done inside the causation. Let's talk about one example here. My mother-in-law recently explained to me whenever I try to text message, my phone freezes. Okay, try to text message, my phone freezes. Remember, it hangs basically. A quick look at her smartphone, they confirm my suspicion that she had 5 game applications open at the same time, plus Facebook and YouTube. They are also open. So act of trying to send message wasn't causing to freeze, but lack of RAM was. So the thing is that dependency factor are completely different. Like I'm opening application, it's okay. I've created data set like this app is open, this is open, this is open, this is open, and it was hanging my messaging application. When this was open, this was not open, this is closed, this is open, this was not hanging my data set, something like that. And I will check that which app is open, which app is not open. Based on that, we'll check that whether messaging app is freezing or not. Remember, it is not depending upon messaging application, depending upon the RAM, which is not considered a dependence factor there. So, but she immediately connected it, and last action she was doing before the freeze. That what app we have created, we have opened. I have closed that app, and you know that now closing that app, my messaging app now not getting freeze. If you identify that application, that game was causing my messaging app to freeze, but not. Factor is something different. RAM size was there. RAM was not sufficient. That's why it was the problem presented here. Means the variable that is present in data set are not actually having useful information. They are not causing any impact in the output. Any impact in the output. So what impact? Which variables are there? We can do add it from external senses. See this one. Is it correlation? So causation is something like this. Phone freezes and text messaging won't work. So they are having a correlated, but causation is having dependency factor, lack of RAM. And because of lack of RAM, phone is freezing, and because of lack of RAM, text messaging is not working. And why text messaging not working? My phone is freezing. Why phone is not freezing? Because lack of RAM. Causation is important to identify. If it is not known, indirect variable, then relationship can't be identified clearly. This is the main dependency concept required to remember while designing a data model. So data models are designed by the dependency concepts. Obviously, as I told, everything happens for a reason. So reason is the input and happening is the output. Reason identification is very important. That's what we call as the feature selection. Data set we have already with us, but out of that, which are impacting, which are not impacting, that's also very required to remember. Maybe that features are not there, we have to import extra features, that why it's causing, what's the reason. And if that impacting factor is not there, so it is of no use. If everyone has given, like for example, let's say I'm having a data set of students, roll number, name, class, age, and marks, correct? Now on that data set, I have to identify that why this person, people are getting, students are getting more marks, and why these are not getting more marks. By that data set, is it possible? Not possible. Roll number is affecting marks? No. Age? No. Name? No. Class? No. Then which factor is there is affecting the mark? That should be present. Okay, like intelligence score, IQ score of that student, like, or how many lectures he has attended. That's also one of the factor. Or how many hours he is to take to revise it, revision time. These are not there. Then how can I find the marks? Causation is important. Cause of having the result. That's where basically it's a part of logic. Statistics is okay, that is fine. But a part of logic also, you need to apply your own logic to check that this is affecting factor or not. And if none of them is affecting, then don't create the model. Don't create the model. If Croydon want to work from a robust model, then the causation parameters are very essential. So it's implying that A and B are having cause and effect relationship with one another. So you are saying A causes B. Yes. So causation is also known as causality. That also different terminology that we can find in different books of statistics. Causality and causation. So two names are there which are possible to have a similar appearances there. Causation means that two events appear at the same time or one after another. At the same time or one after another. That's what the connectivity that they may be having over there. Okay. And secondly, it means these two variables are not only appear together, the existence of one of causes other to manifest. Okay. Are only appear together, they are coming together and they are always having impact in the output, coming together and having impact in the output. The existence of causes the other to manifest dependent. Maybe from original data also you have to derive something. Okay, original data also you have to derive something. Like from date of birth you have to derive the age. So age will be affecting factor, not date of birth. Okay. Date of birth will contain the the day and month. Okay, but if year is not there, the age cannot be identified, and age can be another effective factor in some cases. But if you are given the birth of date, date of birth, and age is not given, so affecting factor will not be there. Though age and date of birth are dependent on each other. Birth date will not be affecting, age is affecting. So from birth date you have to identify the age and then you have to make it further. That also may be there. Causation. So correlation and causation are something like that. Why does correlation means causation? The important question to find the answers for. So even if there is a correlation between two variables, we cannot conclude that one variable causes the change in other. Okay, correlation is present, but we cannot conclude that one variable causes the change in other. This relationship would be coincidental also, or the third factor may be causing both variables to change. That may be one more thing that we need to consider. Third variable, third factor may be causing both variables to change. That may be also present in the system. Okay. For example, Liam has collected data on sales of ice cream cones and air conditioners in his hometown. He found that when ice cream sales were low, okay, ice cream sales is low, air conditioned sales tend to be low, and when ice cream sales are high, air conditioned sales to be high. Correlation is there. Means actual data contains the correlation. Getting? Actual data contains the correlation presented in it. But if you think logically, okay, is it fine? Ice cream sales are low, air conditioned sales tend to be low. Ice cream sale and air conditioned sale, can it be dependent on each other? Can it be dependent? No, not actually. Okay, low and high, something like that. So if you find the correlation between ice cream sale and air conditioned sale, you can find good correlation factor. 90% correlated are there. 90%, 0.9 is the Pearson correlation. If it is given, it's okay. They can find that by using ice cream sale. You can find the air conditioned sale also, because they are correlated with 90% by Pearson correlation formula. So the conclusion of Lamb will be that the sale of ice cream cones and air conditioner positively correlated. Positively correlated. Remember. And Lamb can't conclude that selling more ice cream cones causes more air conditioner to be sold. It's likely that increases in the sale of both ice cream cones and air conditions are caused by third factor. And that factor is temperature. Remember, because of temperature rise, ice cream sale and the cone sales, ice cream sale and air condition sales are increasing. Third factor is there, this is temperature. Okay, you can see temperature rising, and you can see the other factor also, like ice cream and advanced conditions. And I have not considered the temperature. I have checked only that two columns only. And they are correlated to each other. We got 90%. But remember, this is also the myth many times, that we have taken the parameter clearly, and then how my output is not getting correctly. How my output is not getting correctly. Remember, so causation and correlations are different. The cause of the data or correlation of the data, they are actually not dependent all the time, just by this example that we can see. So correlation doesn't means the causation. What the reason behind it and how they are correlated. So correlation is identified, but cause is not present there. This is that what example is showing here. So two things, they are dependent, and the prime reason why it's presented here is that we have to identify the perfectly correlated variables out of it. If they are identified correctly, then only we can build a perfect and robust model of linear modeling based on the correlation factors. That's what we have seen. So correlations is one of the most important statistical method by which model building will be highly affected, because correlation will be checked clearly, and based on that the models are built. This is the 50% part. Statistics, why, how, when, and what from the statistics part is required. Many more are there actually. Maybe that are required in future, like Euclidean distance formula, why to use it. We are having algorithms to work on, or we are having linear regression formulas, we are having regression formulas there, we are having Bayesian probability. Well, we are going to see now what second part of this unit is probability. What do you mean by probability, and how probability based modeling of data is possible, that we will see. Okay, so let me open the next part, that is probability studies. Yes, let's talk about the probabilities. Statistics contains common inferential, descriptive statistics, inferential and differential statistics that we have seen. We have seen the things practically also. In probability also, we will see the things practically somewhat using Python programming language to get clear understanding of the concept. We may have studied the concept of probability for multiple number of times, like maybe in discrete structures or maybe in the statistics. Probability is very commonly used kind of terminologies. So let's go in detail and see the methodologies or mechanism which probabilities are used. I'll show one example to solve it. We'll try to get in more logical from probability point of view. Many models of data science, many models are there which are based on the probabilities, which are working on finding the probability. Means I'm going to do the predictions, classification modeling. Basically, I'm going to do the prediction. What class is that? Like one video which I shown uh, for machine learning, like identifying the dog or cat. Okay, we have given the image of dog, we have given the image of cat. Now, probability based algorithm will check what is the probability that the picture belongs to cat. Okay, and what the probability the picture belongs to dog? Maybe 0 100 is not there. It may have 60 40, 60% dog and 40% cat. So it is having 60% features of 60% model is saying it is dog and 40% cat. 60 40, but decision is finalized that 60% is higher, so it is a dog. Maximum possibilities are there. The result that we have achieved from probability based data modeling are correct. Okay, so many algorithms are there which works this particular concept. Out of that, the first algorithm which uses probability very clearly, very perfectly, is Bayesian classifier. Bayesian modeling, Bayesian network are there. Bayesian classifier is using this data. Bayes theorem, if you know, Thomas Bayes has created. We will see that one today. Conditional probability kind of concepts are there which are using that. Second is logistic regression. Logistic regression is also one of the algorithm which is based on probability of finding something. What is the probability that the data is this? What is the probability that data is this? Okay, that's that. Like, so based on the probability, the identification of predictive data, predictive analysis inside the data science can be done. That's why it is important to know what do you mean by probability, what do you mean by conditional probability, what are the random variables, what are different kind of theorems present in the probability concept. Let's talk about it. See, main important question: what is probability? So probability is is a measure of likelihood of a random phenomenon or chance behavior. Very technical. Likelihood of random phenomenon or chance behavior. What is the chance of going over there? What's the chance of coming over here? Wandering kind of things are there. So what probability will have? So probability describe the long-term proportion with a certain outcome will occur in the situation with a short-term uncertainty. Are you sure? That's the question. Are you sure? Okay, maybe we are sure, so we are still 100% sure. But still we are having confusion in the mind. Are you sure? We'll say yes. But yes is having probability of 70% and 30% no. But our mind will give preference to 70%, not 30%. That is probability. Our decision is finalized. We are making a decision, but decision is not 100% sure. Sometimes we are 100% sure. Yeah, 100 sure. I am sure. My friend will get 80% mark in the examination. Are you sure? You say sure, but actually surety is not 100%. It is 75%. 25% is uncertainty, which is involved there. Uncertainty. Okay. So short-term uncertainties are there, but that uncertainties, if they are below 50%, they are removed. And where higher possibilities or probabilities are present, then they are considered. And then accordingly, predictive analytics can be done. That's second example. Simulate a flipping coin 100 times. Plot the proportion of heads against the number of flips. I repeat the simulation. So what is the probability that I will get head? What is the probability that I will get tail? Okay, so you have to flip for 100 times and then you have to check. Then we have to check it. Okay, that's what the probability will help us. So probability deals with the experiment that yield random short-term result or outcome, yet reveal a long-term predictability. Okay, random short-term randomization is there. Most of the random names, random variables that are present in the probability. Okay, short-term results are there or outcomes are present, but they can reveal the long-term predictability. You have predicted it, and it will have the impact very long. The long-term proportion with which certain outcome is observed is the probability of that outcome. Yes, this is what can be a clear definition. Long-term proportion with which a certain outcome is observed is the probability of that outcome. Probability of having this outcome is predicted by the long-term proportion of happenings. Okay, that's what probability is. There's a law of large numbers. So as the number of repetitions of probability experiment increases, the proportion with which certain outcome observed get closer to the probability of outcome. So that's a law of large numbers. So that means whenever you're going to create the model, large amount of data set, should be present with you. That's a law of large numbers, sir. So repetitions, number of repetitions present in the probability will increase, and possibility of getting accurate result will also increase. Possibility of getting accurate result will also increase. That's the law of large number, and which is applicable to the probability based data modeling in data science. Few more terminology that we need to be familiar with. Out of that, the first one is probability and event. That's we need to remember. Probability and experiment is any process that can be repeated in which the results are uncertain, just like flipping of a coin. You flip a coin 100 number of times, repeated, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, like, and you have counted that I got the head for 60 times and I got tail for 40 times. So 60 times, 60% probability is there for head and 40% is for the tail. Something possibility generally we call it. That's the experiment. So you repeat that experiment for multiple number of times, and we create a data set. That is called experiment. If you talk about machine learning, we have seen machine learning requires the previous experiments, previous data, previous examples. So to build a model which is probability based, we need a previous experiment that we have carried out. We have carried out a lot many experiments, and we get a data set. When input was this, output, input, output, input, output, lot set of data set that we have with us, and repeat it. Now, using that, we'll have some terminology like simple event is any single outcome from probability experiment. One event, okay, one single event is the outcome of probability experiment, which is denoted by E of I. EI, okay, event that we call. And another called as S, sample space S of a probability experiment. Sample space S, probability experiment, is the collection of all possible simple events. Collection of all the simple events. So S is a set of E. In other words, sample space a list of all possible outcome of probability experiments. Flipping of a coin. How many possible outcomes are there? Two. Third is there. Possible, but not considered. Head and tail. Sample space will have all these probability experiment as a collection. So event is any collection of outcomes from probability experiment. Event may consist of one or more simple events and is denoted by the capital letter E. Let's see examples. How probability denote notations are there. We'll talk about it and then we'll go for conditional probabilities. Consider the probability experiment of having two children. Okay. Person will have two children. And in that two children, one is boy, another is girl, or both are boys or both are girls, like probability that we have to find. Identify the simple events of probability experiment. Determine the sample space for that and define the event E is like we are having a boy. Okay. What is the probability that out of these two children you will have a boy? This is what we can have. Example, like what's probability that we can put. So in this case, I'm talking about E only. Event means the expected outcome out of it. Expected outcome is that what is the probability out of two children, the person, one of them is the boy. So we are having a boy between these two. Probability. Denoting. How do we denote the probability? So E is the event. Occurrence, one event. Probability of an event denoted by P of E. P, and in round bracket we have to write E. Is the likelihood of that event occurring. Likelihood of that event occurring is called as P of E. Okay. Probability of event, likelihood of that particular event is P of E. Okay. And there are some properties that probabilities will have, something like that. Just go with denotations, because when you have to put that in statistical format, we are going to use this method. So it is recognized that what's the meaning of it. Okay. So probability of event E is P of E must be between 0 and 1 inclusive. Means 0 is included and 1 is also included. 0 means no possibility, no probability, 0% probability, and 1 means 100% probability. But it can vary 0 0.2, 0 0.3, 0 0.4, 5, 6, 7, 0 0.89, 0 0.95, 99, like all. That is, so P of E is between 0 and 1. So 0 is least value and 1 is most highest value. Okay. Now, if the event is impossible, okay, this result I am getting out of it is impossible, then probability of event is 0. Impossible events are there. When event is a certainty, yes, correct, this is perfect result, certainty, the probability of event is 1, certainty. And let's see, S, that is sample space, is the set of all the events, E1, E2, E3 till En. Then probability of E1 plus probability of E2 plus probability of E3 plus probability of E4 till probability of N is equal to 1. Talking examples now, I think, no, sorry, it's not there. Okay. Okay, any kind of example we'll say. For example, in the IPL auction, some 5 players are there, okay, which will select it. 5 players. So for every player is an event. So we are a particular team management is selecting these particular players out of 5. Now which will be selected by the team management in their team, or by the particular team management, correct? Okay. So out of 5 players, first player is having probability of 0.3, Second player is having 0.15, third player has 0.25, next player has 0.18, 0.22, something like that, 5 players. If you combine them together, the value will be 1. Combined probability means 100% probability is there for all, means out of all, one will be selected. But which is having high probability? Probability of first player is this, second player is this, third player, fourth player, fifth player. So 100% probability is distributed among all of them. This is what shown by this equation. P of even probability of first element, first player, plus second player, plus third, fourth, fifth is 1. And sample space means the names of players. All 5 players are added in the set, and from that set, probability of first, second, third, fourth, fifth are taken. These notations are used in the probabilities. Try to remember it. Next is unusual event. Unusual event means the event that has low probability of occurring. Low probability of occurring. Now, in data modeling, this is my observation generally. Data is imbalanced. Imbalanced data set that we have. For example, I want to create a predictive modeling that when credit card data is given, okay, so based on that credit card data, we have to identify whether that transaction is fraud or not fraud. Fraud transaction, not fraud transaction. So we have to detect the frauds. But remember, to build this model, we have to get some sufficient amount of data. Then model building is possible. Sufficient amount of data should be there. We should have fraudulent transactions with us. We should have non-fraudulent transactions with us. Fraudulent and non-fraudulent. And the data set that we have previously, by which model is possible to create, 1 lakh entries are present. 1 lakh credit card transaction entries are there. Out of that, 500 entries are fraudulent and 99,500 entries are non-fraudulent. Compare it, only 0.5% entries are fraud and 99.5 entries are non-fraud. That is imbalance there. And when a data we are going to create the model, the complete imbalance is present. Data will use this 0.5 entries, data model will use 0.5 entries, an unusual event. Noise, that's called, which is having low probability of occurring. And delete it. We will consider only one possibility there. Every transaction is okay, non-fraud. It's not correct to do. Unusual events. When unusual events are present, then you have to balance the data set. It's a part of data pre-processing, basically balancing data set. But remember what is unusual event, which is having low probability of occurring. Low probability of occurring. It's called an unusual event. Unusual events are more data model. Most of them, this is my experience also. Data model treat it as a noise. That will not occur in time. Even you supply the data which is fraudulent, will check it is okay, non-fraudulent. So data science, you have to look for that also. So in probability based algorithm, if they are given, then frauds can't be detected in such cases because they are rarely occurred. Correct. They are rarely occurred. Now remember, in your class, if some students are there, some students are having 75% attendance, some are having 80%, some 90% attendance are there. Great. But one person is there, one student is there who is coming only for 2 and 3 days in a semester. How can you predict that when next time he will come? There is no sequence. What is the probability there? Out of all 50 lectures in each, for example, 40 lectures for each subject is there. We are having 5 subjects, 200 lectures. Out of 200 lectures, he has attended 8 lectures out of 200. So out of 200, only 8 lectures are attended. So what is the probability? 4%. 4%. So we cannot predict the thing. On what day he attend the lecture, on what day don't attend the lecture. Features are completely different. So unusual events are directly ignored and they are considered as a noise by many of the algorithms. So solutions are there. We have to resample the data, and based on resampling our data, we will balance your data set and perfect model. Probabilistic model can be created. Probabilistic model means models which are based on the probability, that are called as probabilistic models of data. There are certain methods of probabilities are present. 3 methods are presented here. First is classical. We'll not go in detail. Just take the names of it because I think they are not in syllabus, but you can study it onwards also. Classical method, empirical method, and subjective method. Classical, common idea. Empirical is containing the method of addition, subtraction. Subjective method is posed on the selections. So three methods are chosen there, but our task is to go with probability, with conditional dependence, and many more. Let's talk about the topics now one by one. The first topic in probability is dependence and independence. So we have seen what probabilities are. Dependence and independence. So dependence, dependency, independence, independency. So what exactly are there? How they are shown in the form of the formulas, and what probabilities are used for using the dependent independent. Let's talk. Roughly speaking, we say that two events E and F, two events are there, are dependent if knowing something about whether E happens gives information about whether F happens. Otherwise, they are independent. If this, then that. Okay. F, E, two events are there. So F is dependent on E, or E is dependent on the F. For instance, if we flip a coin twice, knowing whether the first flip heads gives us no information about whether the second flip is head. Yes, is it there? It's actually not there. These events are independent. If I make a flip and I got a head, I will not know second time also I will have head. No, second time will have a tail also. So these events are independent. On the other hand, knowing the first flip is head certainly gives us information about whether the both flips are tail. Both flips are tail. If the first flip is head, then definitely it's not the case that both flips are tail. Yes, these two events are dependent. Getting it? Head, and again both flips are not tail. That's what they are dependent. We can identify that head is, then in most of it we have a tail. That kind of things. Dependencies are the dependency and independency that can be found. Now to put this data in the form of mathematical equation, probability equation, so it can be something like this. Mathematically, we say that two events E and F are independent if probability that they both happen is the product of probabilities of each happens. Yes, this is the rule that we need to remember. Probability of EF, probability of happening both the events is equal to probability of E into probability of F. In the example above, probability of first flip head is 1 by 2. Yes, correct. Because two possibilities are there. Out of that, it's 50% possible that head will be there, 50% tail will be there. And the probability of both flip tails is 1 by 4. Because two tails, two heads are there. 4. That's it. 1 by 4. But the probability of first flip heads and both flip tails is 0. One dependence and another independence. Their probability is 0. Okay, that is what we call a dependencies presented here. And using this concept of dependency and independency, we have derived, not we, mathematicians have derived, statisticians derived a contents called as conditional probability. Conditional probability, and how it is denoted, that will solve it. When two events E and F are independent, then definition that we have something like this: independent P of EF is equal to P of F into P of E. Yes. So it means the probability of E and F, okay, the dependent, this is 0, and for P of E and P of F is also 0. Like, so if they are not necessarily independent, and if probability of F is 0, then we define the probability of E condition on F like this. Probability of E on condition F. Yes, probability of E on condition F. Here we write a symbol, a straight line. Probability of E on F will be like this. Probability of EF divided by probability of F. It's called as conditional probability. So you should think of this as the probability that E happens when we know the F happens. So in this way, it can be written. P of E comma F. Okay, see, we'll see the example will clear that particular point again, what exactly the meaning is there. Probability of E comma F is equal to probability of E when F happens divided by into probability of F. So when E and F are independent, you can check, that gives P of E when F is equal to P of E, something like that. Conditional probabilities. Check out the example, how will be done. Okay, a tricky example is there. I will show program for that also if you have time at the end of this session. One common tricky example involves a family with two unknown children. We assume that each child is equally like to be boy or a girl. Yes, it can be a boy, it can be a girl. Okay, the gender of second child is independent of gender of first child. Yes, remember, they are not dependent, they are independent. Then the event no girls is having probability of 1 by 4, and probability of event one girl and one boy is 1 by 2, and probability of event two girls is 1 by 4. Are you getting it? No girls or no boys also 1 by 4, because four persons are involved in that. Four possibilities are there. Two girl, two boys, and no girls are there. Probability is 1 by 4. One girl, one boy will have probability of 1 by 2, 50%. And two girls will have probability of 1 by 4 again, 25% probability. It's 50%, there's 25%. Probabilities are there, which are presented. Now we can ask what is the probability of event both children are girls. Condition condition on the event the older child is a girl. Older child is a girl, that is G. So first condition is B, second is G. So using conditional probability we can derive the formula. Check it out. Condition of B, that both children are girl when the event older girl is a child is equal to B of, just using previous formula I have derived it, P of B comma G divided by P of G, okay, equal to P of B divided by P of G is equal to 1 by 2. This is what 50% conditional probability is present. Since the event B and G, both children are girls and the older girl is child, child is girl, it's just event B. So once you know both children are girls, it is necessary to prove that older child is a girl. This is what the conditions are there. So based on conditions, these formulas are used for conditional probability. Okay, conditional probability. Well, last point, and then we'll go for some easy example with this, because understanding is important, not the formulas actually. We could also ask about probability of event both children are girl, conditional on the event that at least one of the child is girl. Surprisingly, answer is different from before. See, it's 33% probability that we got. Second is the L presented there. As before the event B and L, both children are girls and at least one of the child is girl. It's like B, so it will be B when L is equal to P of B comma L divided by P of L, that is 1 by 3 that we will get here. So many complications are there, that's, we'll solve that complications by more simple example using the conditional probability. If, what is the probability this, if that, that's what we have to know out of it. So let's see one simple example. There is a this is what we call conditional probability. Using conditional probability, statistician, mathematician Thomas Bayes has devised the Bayesian theorem, Bayes theorem that we call, and that Bayes theorem is based on the concept of probability. Okay, the Bayes theorem is based on the conditional probability there. Now, how this conditional probability is derived? Let's see how it's derived. Bayesian theorem. With very easy example here. Let's say I am having two machines with me. Spanner manufacturing machines are there. See these two machines we can see. Machine 1 M1 and machine 2, that is M2. They are presented here. You count it. These are the number of spanners are manufactured by the machine within a specific same time, same amount of time, first and second. And if you compare that, machine 1 is faster than machine 2. Okay, because machine 1 has manufactured like 1 2 3 4 5 6, sorry, how many are there? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13. 13 are there, and here 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So 3 spanners are extra manufactured by the machine 1. It means that we can say that machine 1 is faster than machine 2. Okay, that's fine. Now let's see conditional probability. See, all the spanners which are manufactured by the respective machines I have combined. Yes, all spanners I have combined. And out of all the manufactured spanners, I got few defective spanners out of it. Few defective spanners. Check it out, the spanners which are in black color, they are defective spanners. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And many are okay, they are working perfectly. 5 spanners are the which are defective out of all. Okay. Defective spanners. Now, my conditional probability presented here is like this. What is the probability that the defective spanner is from machine 2? Defective spanner is from machine 2. What is the probability? Okay, what is the probability that spanner is defective? It is okay. This is a simple probability. But what is the probability that spanner which is defective is from machine 2? Machine 2 has manufactured the defective spanner. What is the probability? This is what we have conditional probability for this case. And to solve that, Thomas Bayes has created the theorem. That's what we call as the Bayesian theorem, Bayes theorem. Conditional probabilities are put here in this formula. P of A B, P of A where B equal to P of B where A into P of A divided by P of B. Very interesting. This formula is there. But how it is calculating the result, that we will see step by step. Every point presented in it, that we will see and will gather to solve this particular problem of Bayesian theorem. Let's see one by one. My output is P of A, but if I put together, so let's see what Bayesian theorem. What my question is, what is the probability that machine 2 spanner is defective? A spanner is from machine 2, sorry. Defective spanner is from machine 2. What is the probability? Now see. So we'll start. Machine 1 speed, for example, in 1 hour, machine 1 is manufacturing 30 spanners, machine 2 is manufacturing 20 spanners. Okay, let's take 1 hour. How many are manufactured? 50. Out of 50, 30 are from machine 1 and 20 are from machine 2. Okay, we have seen that they are having a speed difference there. So out of 50, now see, probability of spanner from machine 1 is 0.6 because out of 50, 30 are from machine 1. Correct. Second case, probability of machine 2, that is the spanner from machine 2 is 40% because 20 out of 50 spanners are they're from machine 2. So machine 1 out of 50, 30 are from machine 1 and out of 50, 20 are from machine 2. So 60% probability from machine 1 and 40% probability from machine 2. That's it. The basic probability we identified. Common idea of probability will be like this. P of machine 1 and P of machine 2. Done? Now, second part. Go to the second step. Our observation. So out of all the produced parts, we can see that 1% parts are defective. 1% part are defective. Out of all, 1% are defective. So probability of defective spanner is 1%. Correct? Probability of defective spanner is 1% now. Yes. Getting? Second step is over. 1% defective spanners are there. Third, now our observation that out of all the defective parts, all defective spanners, we have seen that 50% came from machine 1, 50% came from machine 2. Getting? 50% came from machine 1, 50% came from machine 2. Out of 5%, sorry, 1%. 50% are from machine 1, 50% machine 2. Let's see. Now this is your conditional probability. We put out of all the defective spanners, how many percentages from machine 1? 50%. Out of all the defective spanners, how many are from machine 1? Machine 2? 50%. Conditional probability. Okay, the defective spanner is from machine 1, 50% probability. Defective spanner is from machine 2, 50% probability. And our question is, what is the probability that the part produced by machine 2 is defective? The part produced by machine 2 is defective. This is what we have. Machine 2's part is defective. Correct? This is my question. Conditional probability. Part is present. Defective part is present. But from machine 2 or machine 1, what is the probability? There is there. It is possible that from machine 1 also, machine 2 also, but probability matters. So my question is this one. The part is from machine 2. Yes, machine 2's part is defective. And this is solved by Bayesian theorem. Check it out. So the formula will be like this. P of defect from machine 2 is equal to P of defect or from machine 2, like the machine 2's part is defective, this one, into P of defective spanners divided by P of machine 2. Put all together. We got that values already. Defective spanners are 50%, 50% from machine 2, correct? All. Then total probability of defective spanner is 0.01 because 1% probability is there. That also I put here 0.5 into 0.01, and probability of the machine 2 is 0.4. Means out of all 100% parts manufactured, machine 2 speed is 40%. Contribution is 40%. Correct? 0.5 into 0.01 divided by 0.4 is equal to 0.0125. What is percentage? 1.25. Machine 2, the defective part from machine 2 having probability 1.25%. Conditional probability. This is what a Bayesian theorem will tell us. P of AB is equal to P of BA into P of A divided by P of B. That's what we are going to use. And let's see another angle. What we'll do, we'll put real-time values in that formula, real-time values, and then we'll see is it correct result or not. See, so our result is 1.25%. Correct? Our result is 1.25% here. Probability of machine 2. And let's look at the example. Now remember, that we'll talk about afterwards. Let's look at the example. Now, 1000 spanners we have, correct? 1000, total 1000 spanners are there. So according to speed, we can check 600 from machine 1, 400 from machine 2. We know that. Okay, 400 coming from machine 2. Out of 1000, 1% are defective, means 10 are defective, correct? 1% are defective. It means that 10 spanners are defective. Then out of this 10, we know that 50% from machine 1, 50% from machine 2. Okay, so here, out of all, 50% came from machine 2. So out of 10, 5 are from machine 2. 5 are from machine 2. So, and the last output, this one. What is the output? So what percentage of parts came from machine 2? It means that, see, 5 out of 400 spanners manufactured by machine 2, 5 spanners were defective. Correct? So 5 out of 400 is equal to 1.25. This is Bayesian theorem. We have calculated by using formula, and I have proved by values. You can see that these values are there. Proved. It's called as conditional probabilities. So conditional probabilities is generating the Bayesian, is used in Bayesian theorem basically by this particular way. So this method is followed to find a conditional. What is the probability that the part is from machine 1? What is the probability that part, defective part, defective part from machine 2 is okay, 40%. Part from machine 1 is also okay, it is 60%. But defective part is from machine 2, 1.25%. And just inverse to that, we can find a thing that we can find by your own also. The defective part is from machine 1. What is the probability then? That we can find. This is the exercise. I'll show you. Maybe if it is possible for you can find. But let's see that before going further. So this formula will change. Where it will change? Here 50% is okay. Defective part 50%, 50-50 that we know. P of defective part is also known to us 0.01 divided by 0.4. That is, here we will have 0.6. 0.6. This one. Okay, and if you put them together, let's see that. So somewhat very mathematically. So see this one. This is what we will. So first, machine 2's probability is 1.25%, correct? And machine 1's probability will be 0.5 into 0. Sorry, what is that? 0.01 divided by 0.4. This is done. Okay. Sorry. We have 0.6. Yeah, 0.83%. If you multiply this number by 100, 0.83% probability for machine 1, machine 2 1.25%. Obviously we have seen the speed of machine 1 is great, good, and if you 50%, 50-50, then probability will be there. Obviously it's less, 0.83% for machine 1 and 1.25% for machine 2. This is what Bayesian theorem will tell us. Conditional probability, which are checked by the Bayesian theorem, by this particular method. Let's apply that. Where data modeling will use this theorem. Okay, one last topic, maybe it's very mathematically done, but we'll connect to that and we'll see one example of the data, and then we will see how data models will use the Bayesian theorem at actual. Okay, this is by this example we can check it out. So this Bayesian theorem is used for classification problems in data modeling. Classification, if you have to find a class of something, we'll be using it. Let's see the example of it. Okay, this example, last example is there. Some employees of companies are present. Employees of company are there, and few of their employees are having their own car. Okay, and few employees are not having their own car. So some employees are coming to the office by driving with their own car is there, and some employees are coming to office by walking. They don't have their car. Okay, not really, just an example I'm talking about. Okay, so two classes of employees are there: driver and driving and walking. So some are driving, some are walking, and for coming to office they are using this method. Okay, two features are there, two inputs that's on which that is dependent. First feature is age of employee, and second is salary of employee. Age and salary of the employees. I got a data set with me, and according to age and salary, I got that two classes plotted in two-dimensional plane. Check it out. See, the red one are the walkers, okay, and the green one are the drivers. Okay, red one are walkers and green ones are the drivers. Now I want to predict new person's class, like this one. There is a new person. You can check the position of that person there. This is the person, new data point. I want to predict. I want to get a model, and I want to check that this person will go in drives category or in walk category. Okay, drives category or in the walk category. What is the class of it? So to do this one, I want to check the probabilities here. See, my theorem is this, Bayesian theorem is this one. And my probability is, what is the probability that this element, new element, will go in walk? That is the probability that I want to find. New element, that person will go into walk category, and inverse of that will find the drives category also. So let's talk about the walking category first. The element or that particular person will go in walking category. What is the probability of it? That we have to find. So formula is this, and every formula, every function, every formula present inside this formula is having the name given to them, and these are the names. The result that you find, conditional probability, is called as posterior probability. That's the result that we find out of it. Then likelihood, we have come across this point in the probability concept already. Likelihood that out of total walkers, what are the similar observation that we call? Probability of walker is called as prior probability, and probability of all element are called as marginal likelihood. We are going to do the thing step by step. Prior probability, then marginal likelihood, and then posterior probability. That we are going to find, and then we'll find what is the probability that new element will go in Walker category. Yes, let's go. Same will go for driver category also. See, this is drive. Same thing. Result is different. Only drives. So what is the probability the element will go in drive? What is the probability the element will go in walk? Whoever having high probability in that class, it will be classified. Let's see. Now, this is my race. Who will win? Walker or driver? Yes. Let's talk about first. Step number one. First value. What is the probability of walkers? Yes. Out of all observations, how many are walkers? Out of all observations, 30 observations are there. Out of 30, 10 are walkers. So P of walks is equal to 10 by 30. That is 33%. Correct? Step number one. 2. P of X. Probability of X means out of all the observations, how many are similar observations? So see, here we have X presented, and around it, how many similar observations are there? 4. 4 divided by 30. Out of all observations similar, which are near to it, encircle. 4 are there, which are similar observations out of all 30. That is probability of X. Third. Now, out of similar observations, how many are walkers? Out of similar observations, how many are walker? So, number of similar observations among those who walk. Okay, out of all 4 similar observations, we have 3 walkers. Okay, so 30 are there, and out of 30 similar observations, 10 are there. 10 walkers are there. Out of 10, 3 are similar observations. So total walker are 10. Out of that, 3 are similar. This one, these 3 are similar. Okay, done. Put them together. Prior probability is 10 by 30. Marginal likelihood is 4 by 30. Likelihood is 3 by 10. Put them together, we'll get a probability. Probability of X being in Walker category is 0.75%. Check. All values I put together in the formula of Bayesian theorem, and then I got the probability of element in Walker category is 0.75. It is 75%. Probability is that the element will go in Walker category. Yes. And just to inverse of it, second class that we have, what is the probability that the element will go in driver category? So whichever is higher, that is a class of it. Okay, that is a predicted model. So this is what we have: prior probability, marginal likelihood, and posterior probability is done. Posterior probability is checked to find and build the model. So let's go for that. Check it out. All the value I kept. Okay, here we change. Out of 30, 10 are the walkers, drivers. 20 are drivers. 20 are drivers. This is prior probability. Then second, we have marginal likelihood. Similar observation. Out of all 30, 4 are similar observations. Okay. Then let's go for the next. Out of 4, okay, 1 is the driver category. Okay, 4 similar observations were there. 1 is the driver category. Okay, 20 drivers are there. Out of that, 1 is a similar observation. So put them together and find a result 0.25. So the posterior probability that the driver is in X category is 0.25%. Problem solved. The model is created. Find a probability. Check it out. Probability of walker is 75. Probability of driver is 25. So model is done. Model is predicted. The new element will go into walker category. New element will go into or will predicted as the walker. He will be walker. Employee will be walker, because probability is 75%. It's moving toward class number class walk 75% and moving toward the class drive 25%. 100 and 0 is not there. Remember, this is always 100 and 0 is also possible. See, This is a new data point that we have plotted. Final classification is done. Here we got the data point. It is in red category. That is Walker category. Okay, let's see this one. What we are talking about? Yeah. So this probability is identified. Now, what if the element is presented here? Here, like according to age and salary, so presented here. So if I encircle it, I'll got all the element in driver category. So prediction will be like 100% probability will be there in that case. If I plot over here, maybe 50-50 is there. If I plot here 70-20 is, 80-20 will be there. Here, maybe 90-10 are there. If here 100% of red, possible. So the conditional probability methodology, which is used by the Bayesian theorem, is perfectly working in this way. And this is a data model that we use. Data model is created, and then we do the predictions of it. That so new data is coming. Then what can be the possible outcome of it? Possible output that is generated out of it, that we have identified, and we got the result of final classification done by the method of Bayesian theorem. That's how the Bayes theorem can be applied, can be useful to do the classification and build the model based on that. Many things we have learned. Maybe too much things are mathematics. We will not continue. 20 more minutes are there, but we'll stop. You try by your own. You check the systems by your own. For the example, you may not find anywhere, because everywhere mathematical things are given. Mathematics, and you should find it. But by this example, you can understand how Bayesian theorem actually performs the data modeling, how it's used for predictive analysis. This is predictive analysis that we have talked about. Classification predictions are there. You just try by your own. Maybe examples, if any questions are there for today's session, so you can ask. I will share the presentations with you on the same link which we have shared. So if any questions or doubts, so you can ask. Yes. Any questions or doubts are there? Because too much mathematics we have seen. Maybe we have not done such kind of lectures very commonly. Okay. 2-3 topics are remaining. Tomorrow we will stop. We'll finish, and we'll see practical number 2, which is based on the probability tomorrow. Any questions? So we can ask. Fine, no questions are there. So I'll upload this presentation tomorrow on the given link, so you can download from there. And the program also we'll see tomorrow. That also dataset, same dataset we are having, which we are used for Titanic survival dataset, and we'll continue further. So for additional information, I will share the book. Actually, book does not carry any kind of such data set in it. Book is just plain, and theory is given there. But you can try that book from where the syllabus is taken. I'll share that also with you tomorrow. Thank you.